Latest now in the primary runoff election results. It's been a few hot minutes, so let us take once again another look at the U.S. Senate race. We'll start tonight with the Senate results as we see them. We'll pop it all up. Race for U.S. Senate and the Republican side, Ken Paxton still holding that commanding lead, as you see, over John Cornyn. Significant race here. Paxton gains Trump endorsement within the last week and a half or so. That propelled him forward in what was already a race that he was ahead on in most polls. And then for John Cornyn, obviously, if he ends up losing tonight, it is basically the end of what has been a 42-year career for the incumbent. All right, let's drop that, guys. Let's go to the other race that we are watching tonight here. This is the Attorney General race. We got Mays Middleton, Chip Roy, and based on earlier checks with 42% of the vote in right now, not much has changed. Middleton with a sizable lead out early tonight with all the early election results coming in. To get a little more perspective on that, I do want to bring in our Jack Fink now. He is in the newsroom, has this wonderful panel of Texas political experts, and they can break things down. And Jack, you've been talking county by county also tonight after the first big drop of votes, where you've seen some interesting results as you reflect back on what we see tonight in certain counties versus what we saw in the primary.
Yes, and we are going to talk about that, Doug, but actually we want to chat about what you just showed, which was the Texas Attorney General's race in the Republican primary runoff, where that's a pretty sizable victory for now for Mays Middleton, MAGA Mays as he's advertised, and Chip Roy was below 50%. And so I'm wondering, was this the cake already baked in, because Middleton had a 7 percentage point lead on March 3rd, and I know Roy really bumped up his advertising, bumped up his attacks on Middleton. Was it too little too late, do you think, Ross?
I think that nothing was baked in the cake coming out of the runoff. I mean, coming out of the primary. Certainly, Middleton had a very strong performance there. He overperformed expectations. Chip Roy was, I think, very overconfident in round one, talking about winning outright, and then barely made the runoff. But nothing was to be taken for granted in a runoff election, as we saw from the outcome for Senator Cornyn. I think that Middleton's margin of victory right now, as we see it so far, he's now up 2-1 in his home county, his home area of Harris County. Is a testament to his skill campaigning, but also to his focus on the issues that Republican primary voters care about. I think a lot of what Chip Roy used in his attacks, he used a lot of issues that are important to sort of fringe segments of the party. He was very much focused on issues like Sharia law. Middleton has been very focused on issues that are very conservative, but that voters broadly care about, like immigration, like fighting crime, and his own record of accomplishments in the state legislature.
And he said that his #1 issue was defeat the left.
That's right.
That was his issue. And so let me bring in Jane, then we'll get to Professor. So Jane, when you hear that, defeat the left, and he also, MAGA Mays, very much wrapped himself around President Trump, even though the president did not make an endorsement in this race. So when you hear that, how is a Democrat? Looks like it's going to be Nathan Johnson, and we'll talk about the Democrats here in a minute. What do you think about that?
So look, I think that Middleton did what in his primary he needed to do, right? He spoke to his base. It's kind of hard to beat out MAGA Mays. I mean, the name in itself is, right, it kind of sticks with people, but we did see during the first round, as Ross mentioned earlier, that there were some surprises there with Middleton, and I think that in that, Chip Roy did take for granted what he felt like his standing was. He did get into issues that I don't think really excite the Republican base, whereas Middleton sort of stayed in what Republicans wanted to hear: defeat the left, those type of things. He spoke to his party, right? And I believe that had a lot to do with him coming out up top on that. In terms of the Democratic runoff for AG, I felt the whole time, I think a lot of insiders did, that the handwriting was on the wall, that Nathan Johnson was going to take this. These are two trial lawyers, right? They're used to sort of, standing, presenting themselves, presenting their case, and we saw that in both of them. However, an incumbent in a race like this absolutely matters. Nathan Johnson had a lot of name ID. He had great relationships in Houston as well as in Dallas. He got the bulk of the endorsements in both of these major counties. He's from Dallas, right? And you have in Joe Jaworski, he was the mayor of Galveston. That's not the same as being from Houston.
Right. And it's a former. And let me get the
Correct.
professor in here as well. What you think about, because this looks like, and I don't know if we have the Democratic numbers that we can pop up here, but this obviously looks like it's going to be Middleton versus Nathan Johnson.
Right. Well, and it's important to remember a couple things in these primaries. First of all, hats off to Mays Middleton for, from the get-go, defining himself as MAGA Mays, because that stuck in voters' minds.
Absolutely.
Like, I think that was really good political marketing. And it's important to remember in all these races, the differences on the issues between these candidates in these primaries are minimal. Right? They basically agree on all the core issues across all these races within the same party. The differences are in terms of self-presentation, style, etc. And so that kind of self-presentation certainly was very effective in Middleton's case, and I think that's going to carry him to this victory tonight.
And we're going to take a break, but one other thing I would say is that I thought Middleton did an excellent job of defining not only himself, but defining Chip Roy before Chip Roy had a chance to get back into the race. So we're going to take a break, and Doug, actually, we're going to send it back to you.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the break, Jeff. We'll give you a couple of seconds. But great insight. Good discussion. We appreciate it all. Great perspective.